There are several ways of assessing efficiency in mediation. The first way is pragmatic and is based on the use of specific indicators such as reaching an agreement or not and respecting the terms of the agreement. The second category of indicators are perceptual and minimize the importance of the agreement per se. These indicators assess people's subjective satisfaction with the mediation process, the mediator, and the outcome. The last category of criteria emphasizes the importance of dispute resolution between the parties and thus of improving the relationship between them through a reconciliation process. Different types of mediators value different criteria of efficiency. Evaluative style mediators will, for example, give more importance to the first criterion of reaching an agreement, while transformative style mediators will have a particular preference for the criterion of reconciliation. Indeed, mediators who see their role as broader than simply drawing up a contract between the conflicting parties, who are concerned not only with increasing the satisfaction of the parties, but also with achieving the transformation and improvement of the relationship between them. Well, they cannot but seek to foster a reconciliation process. In the next video, we will discuss the factors that promote party satisfaction and conflict reduction. Before that, in this video, let's focus on the first criterion, the pragmatic criterion. The presence or absence of an agreement between the conflicting parties and the respect of the terms of this agreement are the most visible and accessible criteria of efficiency. These criteria may also seem more objective than others that are based on the perception of the parties or on the diffuse notion of reconciliation. According to Wall and Dune, the success rate of mediations has increased from about 60% in the 90s to nearly 80% in more recent studies. The signing of an agreement at the end of mediation is important in part because it is positively related to the satisfaction of the parties. Research also shows that when disputing parties manage to reach an agreement on their own through mediation, the risk of non-compliance with the terms of the agreement is lower than if this agreement is imposed on them from the outside by a judge, for instance. But having an agreement does not mean that it is a good agreement from an objective point of view, or even that the parties really identify with it from a subjective point of view. In fact, it happens sometimes that agreements negotiated in mediation serve the objective interests of the party less well than a decision that would have been made by an external judge. But what is it then that promotes the reaching of an agreement between parties in conflict? Well, several studies have looked into this issue, and the result is that among the multitude of variables explored, the one that contributes most to the effectiveness of mediations and that substantially increases the probability that an agreement will be reached is the collaborative attitudes of the parties, and therefore their willingness that they put in the mediation process. Conversely, when the relationship between the conflicting parties is deeply hostile, the mediator's room for maneuver is severely restricted. Thus, the more people are oriented towards compromise, consensus, and agreement, the more likely they are to reach an agreement. Conversely, the more rigid, closed-minded, and threatening they are, the less likely an agreement will be reached. These results mean two things. First, they underline the importance of working in mediation on the context and on the quality of the relationship between the parties, in addition to, if not before, worrying about the concrete terms of the agreement. Secondly, they force mediators to take a certain distance and to realize that in some situations their actions will not be successful and that mediation is doomed to failure.